You waited in line. You hunted allocations. You paid secondary prices that made your credit card statement look like a ransom note. That Weller foolproof you paid $300 for? It is sitting on shelves right now for $60. Welcome to the Great Correction. Kentucky has 16 million barrels aging right now. Jim Beam shuttered their main distillery for an entire year. Trade war tariffs eliminated 85% of Canadian export in overnight. The artificial scarcity that made your collection worth something has evaporated. If you own any of these 15 bottles, you needed to hear this yesterday. Number 15, High West, a Midwinter Night's Dram. Price range before from $250 to $350 to now from $130 to $160. Loss approximately 51%. The seasonal darling became a clearance rack cautionary tale. High West increased batch sizes and simultaneously introduced younger distillate into the blend, two decisions that undermined the qualities collectors had been paying premiums for. When a so-called limited release trades below retail on the secondary market, the market has delivered its verdict. The limitation was never genuine scarcity. It was a production decision dressed as exclusivity. Better alternative. Yellowstone Limited Edition, 2026, at $100, with port and tawny cask, finishing, and honest heritage behind it. Number 14. Whistle Pig 15-Year Estate Oak Rye. Prices fell from $260 to $135 on the secondary market. Retail remains $240 plus, representing a loss of approximately 48%. Whistle Pig attempted to establish Pappy pricing for Vermont rye. The secondary market respectfully declined. When buyers discover that a bottle trades at roughly half its retail price on the secondary market, the message is unambiguous. The premium exists in the marketing rather than the barrel. A Vermont address and attractive label design cannot sustain luxury pricing indefinitely without the liquid to justify it. Better alternative. Michter's 10-Year Rye at $185, more exclusive, consistently rated higher, and genuinely worth the premium. Number 13. Blue Run Spirits. Price history: $150 to $200 fell to $70 to $90, a loss of approximately 55%. Blue Run built a brand on the most visually compelling packaging in recent bourbon history. The liquid inside came from other distilleries. When those source distilleries started releasing more aged stock directly, the premium for Blue Run's repackaging collapsed. Why pay $100 for juice traceable to a Kentucky distillery that was selling the same liquid under their own label for $40? Better alternative. Old Forester, 1920 at $60. Authentic distillery heritage, bold cocoa and roasted coffee character, genuinely earned. Number 12. Ardbeg Hardcore and Fermentation Committee releases. Prices fell from $250 to $400, down to $120 to $160, a loss of approximately 60%. 60% declines that even Ardbeg's most devoted committee members could not prevent. Non-age statement experimental releases, with increasingly gimmicky names, started to feel less like genuine whiskey craft and more like the distillery testing what premium pricing the market would accept. When your most loyal supporters began expressing skepticism publicly, the broader market followed immediately. Better alternative. Laphroaig 10-Year Sherry Oak finish at $80, medicinal peat and sweet cherry in genuine balance. Number 11. Dalmore Constellation Collection 1964. Price $95,000 and up, down to $67,622 at auction, a loss of approximately 30%. At that level, bottles were never primarily about the whiskey. They were status objects, crystalline displays of wealth that attracted ultra-high net worth collectors competing to own the most expensive thing in the room. When the economy tightened and trophy hunters retreated, those crystal decanters mostly became very expensive paperweights. Most bottles were unopened. They sat in climate-controlled storage, accumulating value until the market for conspicuous luxury displays softened. and the value stopped accumulating. Better alternative, Glenfarclas 25-year, priced under $250, a quarter century of genuine Highland character without the luxury packaging premium, delivering value. Number 10, Springbank 10-year. It fell from $250 to $300, down to $110 to $130, a loss of approximately 52%. Springbank's correction is painful precisely because the bottle deserved its reputation, and that genuine quality is what made it vulnerable to the speculation that ultimately destroyed its accessibility. When flippers drove prices to $300 for 10-year-old whiskey, regular drinkers were priced out of a bottle that had always been for them. The 52% correction represents the market returning to something closer to what the liquid is worth on its own merits. A better alternative is Kilkerran 12-year, priced at $75 to $90, same ownership group, same Campbelltown character, honest pricing. Number 9. Lagavulin, 16-year. Corporate pricing drove a buyer revolt. The price rose from $75 to nearly $140. This one is different. The collapse came from Diageo's own pricing decisions rather than secondary market speculation. Lagavulin's 16-year was the accessible gateway to serious Islay whiskey for decades. Diageo progressively pushed the price toward $140 without meaningfully changing what was in the bottle. At that price, it competes directly with craft distilleries bottling at higher proof and without chill filtration for significantly less money. The core audience did the math and became former customers. Pricing out your loyal audience does not attract new customers, it creates resentment. Better alternative, Ardbeg 10, at $60 to $75, offering more intensity, more complexity, and more respect for your wallet. Number 8. Thomas H. Handy Sazerac Rye, $650 to $400, a loss of approximately 38%. Thomas H. Handy is a 6-year-old rye whiskey. At peak speculation, secondary prices reached $650. The math was always going to catch up with that. Cask-strength rye of genuine quality is no longer rare. Multiple distilleries produce high-proof, well-aged expressions at prices that make the Handy secondary premium look increasingly indefensible. When buyers can access superior rye experiences at a fraction of the cost, the mythology surrounding any single bottle eventually meets the arithmetic. Better alternative, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel, proof at $65, consistently above 125 proof with intense flavor and real complexity. Number 7. Eagle Rare 10-year. Used to trade for $100 to $120, then $60 to $70 on the secondary market. Now findable at $50 MSRP loss, approximately 41%. Eagle Rare taught an entire generation what allocation meant and what the thrill of the hunt felt like. It also demonstrated what happens when those 16 million Kentucky barrels reach maturity. When Buffalo Trace's expanded capacity produced enough 10-year-old mash bill No. 1 bourbon to begin satisfying demand more consistently, the unicorn became a horse. Horses do not command unicorn prices. Collectors who bought at secondary highs absorbed 40% losses as that normalization unfolded. A better alternative is Russell's Reserve 10-year at $45, consistently available, more complex, and genuinely improves everything from neat sipping to cocktails. Number 6. Blanton's Single Barrel. The price went from $130 to $150, down to $80 to $95, a loss of approximately 41%. Blanton's became the defining symbol of a specific era in bourbon culture, the iconic horse and stopper bottle that appeared in more Instagram posts than glasses. At 93 proof, it is a pleasant, accessible bourbon. What people were paying the premium for was the bottle, the stopper, and the cultural moment. When social media attention moved elsewhere, the demand built on that attention moved with it. The liquid, was never the point. When the cultural moment passed, so did the pricing built around it. A better alternative is John J. Bowman's Single Barrel at $55, a Buffalo Trace distillate aged in Virginia's climate at 100 proof with genuine character. Number 5. Uncle Nearest 1856 Premium Whiskey. This entry is different from everything else on the list. The problem is not a secondary market correction, it is a complete corporate financial collapse. Uncle Nearest built one of the most compelling brand stories in recent American whiskey history, honoring the enslaved man widely credited with teaching Jack Daniel the Lincoln County charcoal mellowing process. The story was genuine, and the cause was meaningful. The financial structure behind the growth was not. The company defaulted on $100 million plus in loans, and it entered receivership in August 2025, carrying $164 million in total debt. Reports show monthly losses of $100,000, and allegations emerged that funds were directed toward real estate investments rather than whiskey operations. When a brand enters receivership, its bottles become problematic investments regardless of liquid quality. Brand equity does not survive bankruptcy intact. Better alternative, Evan Williams Single Barrel at $30. Consistent single barrel character, stable company, honest pricing. Number 4. Kentucky Owl Confiscated. Clearance at $90 to $100, down from $130 retail. Parent company Stoli Group in bankruptcy. Kentucky Owl represented the non-distiller producer model at its most ambitious. Sourced bourbon packaged with compelling storytelling and premium pricing, built entirely on brand identity rather than distillery heritage. When Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, and other major Kentucky distilleries began releasing more of their own aged stock directly, the intermediary premium became impossible to justify. Why pay $130 for mystery-sourced bourbon when you can buy from the actual source distillery at half the price? Add a parent company bankruptcy, and the value proposition disappears entirely. Better alternative, Wild Turkey Rare Breed. At $60, a barrel-proof blend of 6, 8, and 12-year bourbons from a distillery with genuine heritage. Number 3. Weller Full Proof. Price from $300 to $350 to now $145 to $160. Loss approximately 54%. Weller Full Proof was the face of the wheated bourbon bubble. No single bottle more completely represents both the heights of bourbon speculation and the severity of its correction. A $60 bottle that had been trading at $350 on the secondary market. Its premium was built entirely on artificial scarcity, created through allocation rather than any genuine production limit. When Buffalo Trace expanded aging capacity and began producing enough mature wheated bourbon to meet demand more consistently, that premium structure, which had no relationship to production reality, collapsed rapidly and completely. Better alternative, Green River Wheated Bourbon at $50. Rich and creamy wheated character from the historic Owensboro distillery without the allocation tax. Number 2. The Macallan 25-year Sherry Oak. $2,500 to $3,000, down to $1,100 to $1,400 at auction, a loss of approximately 54%. The most spectacular single collapse in the luxury spirits correction. Macallan built its contemporary premium positioning on genuine quality, combined with the kind of brand prestige that attracts collectors who want their whiskey shelf to signal the same status as their art collection. That strategy worked until two things happened simultaneously. Retail prices were pushed to levels that made secondary buying irrational, and a series of gimmicky limited editions alienated the traditional collectors who had built the brand's auction reputation. The collectors who drove Macallan's premiums were the same people who noticed the brand drift most clearly. When they stopped competing, auction prices dropped to reflect only what the remaining buyers would pay. Better alternative, Glendronach 21-year Parliament at $300, with superior sherry cask influence and authentic Highland character without the corporate premium. Number 1. Pappy Van Winkle, 23-year family reserve, $4,000 to $2,800. Loss approximately 30%, the bottle that started it all. The whiskey that taught the American market that bottles could be investments, and that scarcity could justify any price. The correction arrived from multiple directions. A high interest rate environment made speculative investment in illiquid assets less attractive. Kentucky's expanded aging capacity made genuinely exceptional old bourbon less exclusively rare. Critical scrutiny of Pappy Van Winkle's actual flavor profile, frequently described by serious tasters as over-oaked and excessively dry for the age, became more vocal as the mythology became harder to sustain. $1,200 lost on a single bottle. The king of the bourbon market is not dead. The era of $4,000 Pappy as a rational investment is effectively over. Better alternative: Michter's 10-year bourbon at $195. More balance, more complexity, more genuine drinking pleasure without the mythology premium. The summary in 4 numbers. Weller Full Proof, down 53.8%. Macallan 25-year, down 54.5%. Blue Run, down 55.6%. Ardbeg Limited Editions, down 60%. The pattern across every entry is identical: manufactured scarcity, premiums built on hype rather than liquid quality. And when the hype collapsed, the pricing built on it collapsed with it. Here is what the Great Correction actually means for people who love whiskey rather than treat it as a financial instrument. The market is returning to rewarding genuine quality at honest prices. Examples include Wild Turkey Rare Breed, Michter's 10-year, and Ardbeg 10. These bottles were always exceptional. They were simply drowned out by the noise of the speculation era. The correction separated the drinkers from the flippers, the quality from the hype. Drop your whiskey investment story in the comments. Hit subscribe for market intelligence that keeps you ahead of the next shift. The whiskey world changed. The bottles worth drinking never did.